Assalamu alaikum students. So today we have our 5th class on right form of verbs. Actually there are so many rules and there are so many exceptions as well, and that's why we are taking a little bit longer time in this lesson. Now let's ponder over some important examples like so here are two particular situations. I saw him working. The inspection team found the building completed. So in both of the cases, someone else has done it. Someone else have completed it. Someone else is working, but also the subject is doing something, but the finite verb that is related to the subject, but another verb that is related to this one, where there are two particular subjects and one subject finds the task is done by another. That is called causative verb. Which kind of verb? Causative verb. Now when I am saying about causative verb, ultimately if the task is continued, that is, if it is in present continuous tense, then we will use main verb plus ing for the non-fitted verb. While the inspection team found the building completed, here we will use past form because here the second subject, there is no second subject, there is only object. Here also we find two subjects, while this one is subject for the second verb, but this one is object for the first one. However, here we see that there is only one subject, that is the inspection team, and the building, this is actually an object. So somebody else has completed it, but that doesn't mean that comments. That doesn't mean that we will keep it as it is, because what we are doing, that is, we are making it past participle. So, or past tense. That is, the inspection, basically it will be past participle. So the inspection team found the building completed. Or we have found the task done. So someone has finished this task. That's why we are using the past participle. So if we see, and there is very easy formula regarding this causative verb. What is that? When the object will be any personal one, like it is any living person, then the second verb will be main verb plus ing. While if this object is any inanimate thing, then it will be, that is lifeless thing in Bangla, which we call bostubachok, then it will be in the past participle. So I saw him working. We have found the task done. Here we have used this done because this object is an inanimate thing, while this object is a living person, personal object. So let's proceed. While walking, I saw a snake. Now, in this case, when we see that while is followed by a main verb, then the structure will be while plus main verb plus ing. But if we use in that case, it will be past continuous. While I was walking, I saw a snake. So, here we see that while plus main verb will be used when while is being followed by only a main verb, but at the same time while plus past continuous will be used when while is being followed by a structure that is which consists of a particular subject, that is while plus subject plus past continuous, while plus main verb plus ing, when there will be no subject which follow while. Now here we see that there is something else like causative verb. Here also we find that the main task is being done by somebody else. So for the second verb, the object is the subject, while for the first one, this object, this personal object, it is being turned into object when we are considering this particular clause, I want him. But for this verb, this object, him, this is basically acting as subject. And this task is not over, it is not being continued, rather this will be done in future. So in case of causative verb, if there is any future possibilities, then we will use to plus main verb. I want him to do the work. But if the task is being continued, so I want him, I saw him doing the work, then it will be doing. I found the work done, then it will be past participle. Somebody is saying, please conduct today's class in Bengali. No, this is not possible. You had better leave. Now, let's see another particular rule, that is, in case of verb to be's, like to be plus being, etc., what we are doing, that is, we wanted the job to be done, we found the job being completed. In both of the cases, we see that this is to be done, this is being completed. So when we are using these particular forms of to be verbs like to be, being, then we find that the main verb will be in past participle tense. For example, here to be done, here being completed. The next one is so our next problem is this is being started with if. So here we see that when we are using if, then actually what we are doing, we are working with some sentences called conditional sentence. They are like so we see in this example, if is being followed by subject plus present form, then we see that we will use just the future tense at the subordinate portion. We can use I shall, we can use I will. It's better we use I will because nowadays in modern English the use of shall is gradually being abolished. So here we see that I will is being used and the subordinate portion is if you come. So we see that if plus simple present tense will be followed by a principal clause having subject plus future tense. If we have past tense at the subordinate clause, if we have past form, then here we will get would or might. How is it? Like if you came, I would go. So here we find the subordinate portion is with past tense and it will be followed by subject plus would plus main verb. So This structure is when the subordinate portion will be in past tense, we will use would plus would or might in the principal portion. Again, if you had done this, I would have punished you. Here, if the subordinate clause is with this main verb do, then what we will do is we will use would have plus the past participle form of the main verb. So the structure is very simple. If plus present plus future, if plus past plus would, if plus past participle plus would have. There is another type of conditional sentence like had I seen him, I would have called him. So the system is, of course, this sentence is being started with had, and then there will be subject, and definitely if the sentence is being started with had, then the past participle form of the main verb will be used, while at the principal portion we will use would have called. So had plus subject plus past participle, it will be followed subject plus would have plus past participle. So when we are using the phrases like had better or had rather, would better or would rather, and we are using modal verbs, so We had better go now. So had better or had rather will be followed by the main verb, and the same thing is true. So the same thing is true about would better or would rather and modal verbs. You would better go now, or we will go now. So in case of modal verbs, in case of had better or had rather, in case of I will, I shall, all of these things will be followed by simple present tense. So again, let's have a look. We had better go now, we would rather go now. We shall go now, we will come here. All of these things, that is had better, had rather, would better, would rather, and modals will be followed by simple present form. Then comes another type of a structure. I wish I were a king. Here we are using where. That is, when I am using wish, and if there is to be verb, then we are turning it into where. Of course, it will not be. Very common mistake. Do not do this. Often our instinct leads that as there is be, that's why we may use was. No. It is like very impossible desires. So in case of impossible wishes, impossible desires, we use where. Like if we use he wishes, even then we will use where. Now I wish I live in the Mars. Here, it will be in past tense. Why? Because in case of impossible desires, if there is no to be verb, rather any main verb, then it will be turned into past form. So I wish I lived in the Mars. But if it is to be verb, it will be where. So this whole thing, that is, we are using past tense in case of impossible desires. This is basically called unreal past. If you wish to remind the terminology, it is called unreal past. Unreal past will be always of course it will be in the past tense, and it is used when we are using this word wish. So it is used in case of desires, it is used in case of impossible wishes. Of course, main verb plus ing will be used in some cases, like any preposition except to, then would you mind? Would you mind giving me a cup of coffee? Or the book is worth reading. And of course, any preposition except to. Like often we read that we will use main verb plus ing after before or after or from or with. Forget all of these things. Any preposition or preposition phrase apart from to, it will be followed by main verb plus ing. But of course, there are some particular phrases like with a view to, get used to, all of these things will be followed by main verb plus ing that we have discussed in an earlier class already. That is, would you mind giving me a cup of coffee? The book is worth reading. Of course, in these cases, we are using main verb plus ing. Now that is very simple rule. If we say he will is at the in the bracket, go there yesterday, then of course we will use he would go there yesterday. The structure will be would plus main verb. Why? Because we are using the past tense yesterday here. So if we use any past form adverbs like yesterday, like last year, then, and we have these verbs in bracket like will, shall, then we will just turn them into past form. The reason of most of the accidents, here we are using is, although the word accidents is being used. Why? Because actually this is a whole phrase, the reason of most of the accidents, and the subject is a singular one, the reason. Accidents is not the subject. Our subject is what? Our subject is the reason. So in these cases, in many prepositional phrases, we find that the subject is very much confusing. The particular word or phrase with which that prepositional phrase starts, that is basically the subject, and we will considering this particular word or phrase when we are solving a right form of verbs problem, not this one, not the later portion of the phrase. So this we have to keep in mind always. So students, that's all today. Thank you.